Hey, what is going on, everybody? You already know. Sorry for a little delay here. It's Wednesday night. It's College Football Frenzy. My name is Paul Spencer. I got the usual guys, Joe Sullivan, a.k.a. The John. Right below me, Sean Killer Kilrain. Right over there at the corner over there, we got Big Mike. Mike Laurel, what's going on, brothers? How we feel?
So,
What's going on, guys? Another
Dylan.
one.
not
maybe.
much, man.
Yeah. Listen. I know it's College Football Frenzy here, but lately we've been switching it over to the NFL aspect because college is all just a draft coming up and the combine. You can't really read into the combine here, but tonight, guys, we're talking AFC North, and of course, I got one of the legends here, Franco Harris, of course, because I had the Steelers tonight. But guys, before we get into our talk, I got a special guest tonight. When it comes to we all have fathers, of course, and we all looked up to our father, but how many of us can say that my dad was a Hall of Fame NFL player? It's pretty crazy.
Not me.
No, I can't.
Not me, man. Hell, my dad couldn't even run across the block without tripping. You know what I mean? That's where I got my business.
On me.
But guys, listen, I'm going to bring in a guy. He's already on camera. He's not on camera. His audio is feeding, but his video is not there. He wanted it that way. But guys, I have Garrett Webster. We all know his father, Mike Webster. Hall of Fame Pittsburgh Steeler icon. Garrett, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, brother, thank you for chiming in on the show here, man. Listen, we are all like historians of football here, and I tell you what, man, I'm a Cowboy fan. You got 3 Eagles fans here, but when you think of football, Iron Mike pops into my damn head. I'll tell you that, man.
Well, I mean, as long as we don't have any Browns fans in here, but they're a kind of a slow few there. But
yeah.
I hear you. Hey, you know what? We're going to go around the table here and ask you some questions real quick. Jamie, thanks for tuning in, hon. Thank you for tuning in. That's Mike's significant other there, the smart part of the family. We all know that. But
that's the brains.
Exactly. But I'll let somebody else start here. Who wants to go question for Garrett here? We all know his father, Hall of Famer. My God, staple point of the Pittsburgh offensive line, man.
I got a question for him. Garrett, this is Mike. I want to ask you a question. Growing up, with your dad playing ball and everything, how cool was it? I'm pretty sure you got to be around all the legends back there in the 70s. How was that as a kid growing up?
Well, I'm not that old, so I wasn't around the guys from the 70s. I kind of came in at the tail end there. And if anybody remembers, the Steelers in the late 80s it wasn't their best time. They were kind of rebuilding the franchise, and there were still some guys. I think Stallworth was still there. Some of the guys would still be in and out with training camp and stuff like that. But growing up, because I was 4 years old when my dad left the Steelers, but I still remember things like going up to St. Vincent's and going to training camp with him. I remember one of my earliest memories, one of my most treasured memories, is going down to the locker room after the games. Dad would have us down there, and me and my brother, or just me. I was always a little bit more of a sports fan than my brother was. My brother was more into like dinosaurs and books. And he's only a couple years older than me, but we all have different interests and stuff. But growing up with my dad, and really, with all honesty, not really until my dad passed away, I didn't think of my dad as a football player. Dad wasn't a guy who was very boisterous about his accomplishments on the field, and obviously, as everybody knows, unfortunately, he went through some tough times there as he finished playing. But he was just my dad. And growing up, it was my dad was just cool because he was my dad. Like, we all look up to our dads. And getting that chance to, just like any of us, if any of us got a chance to go with our dads to work or something like that, when you're 4 or 5 years old and you look up to your dad, it's the coolest thing in the world. And of course, being a young man, getting to go into those locker rooms and smelling that athletic tape. And I remember the coolest thing, they had a jacuzzi. I used to think that was the coolest thing, that he worked someplace where there was a jacuzzi there. But growing up in Pittsburgh and then in Kansas City, I remember a little bit more. He played his last 2 years with Kansas City, his Willie Mays or Franco Harris with the Seahawks years. But I remember those years a little bit better. But it's still the same thing, growing up. That's like I said, that smell of athletic tape, the green grass, those things are just things I'll always remember, and I try to pass down to anybody. Either my nieces and nephews or other kids who ask, a similar question to what you asked. And I try to, convey that, these guys, they're athletes and we look up to them as being amazing guys, but they're also dads and brothers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the biggest impact they have, even on those close to them, if any of you are friends with professional athletes, is that ability to see them outside of playing and seeing that normal aspect of them. That's the most special.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we look at it dad first. Number one, it's dad first before the athlete, the icon, the Hall of Famer. Joe, Sean, who wants to go?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Garrett.
A Ravens fan. This is
well, you know what?
He didn't play against the Ravens. Just remember that, okay? The Colts, all right.
No, I'm an Eagles. I got the Ravens because I'm covering the Ravens tonight, and I like Ed Reed, so I'm not a Ravens fan.
Oh yeah, no, Ed Reed's good.
But no,
Palomalu's better, but he's good.
Palomalu was great. I agree. I'll put Dawkins up there too. But no, but just kind of getting back to that. I think us as fans, it's like we, it's something to put in perspective where all these guys do have family. You know what I mean? Like you watch football and you just think of these guys as like warriors on the field, and you really bring a different perspective because these guys, at the end of the day, I mean, these guys have families and life outside of football as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think one of the biggest things, and I think, and I've always said this, and I think my dad's story, for whatever reason, and it's unfortunate that it's because of the concussions and the head injuries and stuff like that, but dad's story's always kind of stuck around. And I think one of the reasons why football fans they don't get enough credit for this. They see these guys as people now. I think there's been a huge, positive way we look at mental health in the world now than we used to. And I think that, not just from the depression and sad aspect, but also in the realistic athlete. I remember, one of the most, tearful moments I've ever had in emotional ways was there was a receiver for the 49ers who played the day after his son died. His son died that morning, and he returned a touchdown. And he scored a touchdown, and I remember him crying in the end zone. And I remember how emotional that was. And it was, if you would have gone back 20 years ago, people would have said, "Oh, just get him back in the huddle or go on to the next play," or they wouldn't even have mentioned that.
Yeah, that was Marquise Goodwin.
That's his name. Or you look at D. Gordon for the Marlins, and remember he hit that home run on the first pitch, or not the first pitch, but the first at bat of the game after Jose Fernandez died, and he's crying coming around the bases.
Right.
And I think that people now, they do look up and they do expect a lot of these guys, and they do look up at them as heroes. And I think really in today's world where you've seen so many idols be torn down justifiably or unjustifiably, it's important that all of us, whether they're kids, adults, whatever, have these guys, because people like my dad or other athletes, they have a huge impact on society. My favorite messages I get from people are from people who says, I was in rehab for heroin addiction for 10 years. And one of the things I clung to was Iron Mike Webster running out, and that determination that he had. And even though that does sound kind of silly, it makes sense, because like little kids look up to Spider-Man and Batman and all that kind of stuff. As you grow up, you realize Spider-Man, Batman, Darth Vader, whatever, they're not real. But Iron Mike Webster, Joe Montana, Brett Favre, these guys are real. And, you look at some of the things that Michael Jordan did. I remember growing up, you see Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods when he was at the top of his game. And you look at you kind of have trouble now because it's, so many years past those guys' prime. But if you look at it, it's just amazing the things they do. And there's always that human aspect, and that, kind of increases the legend to some aspect. And when we see our heroes struggle and have problems and fail, really, it makes them more relatable to us. And I think one of the things with my dad is that for all the difficulty he had and all the struggles that he's had, and like he said, growing up with, my dad being Iron Mike Webster and stuff like that, I think a lot of people also grew up with my dad and looked at him. And I think especially with offensive linemen, probably more than, I don't think there's any position in any other sport that people who watch the game know that they don't get the credit they deserve, and know that really nothing could happen without them. But it doesn't change. It's not like they're going to start getting the attention they deserve. They get a little more now than they used to. But offensive linemen are kind of like, everybody can relate. They're those guys that do their job and they're overlooked and they're overworked and underpaid and stuff like that. And, I think that's been the special thing with my dad, that bond between the fans, and has helped grow that look of, I'm sure all you guys have players on your favorite teams that something personal about, whether it's through reading stories or whatever, and it makes you cheer for them and root for them a little bit more than you normally do. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. And, I think that's why my dad's, story is kind of stuck around.
Okay. Yep. That's remarkable. Sean, what do you got? What question do you have for Garrett?
Well, one thing that sticks out to me, Garrett, is one of his sayings at the Hall of Fame. He says, "Don't be afraid to fail. We're all going to fail. Believe me, no one's keeping score. All we have to do is finish the game, and then we'll all be winners." That as a player of the game, it just tells you don't give up. Just keep on fighting, no matter what's in front of you, and just keep on going. For people that don't believe that they could do it, just hearing that, it just picks you up and says, you know what, I can do it. My team has my back, So that really sticks out to me, as father being a great offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think that, that's something we don't, we all grow up, especially when we're kids, thinking, we're going to go off and be astronauts or, whatever our dreams are. And, unfortunately, that stuff doesn't happen. And, we kind of, I've heard this saying a lot, that America's, especially in this country, America's the only country that expects everything to go right. And every other country expects everything to go bad. And then when it goes right, they're overjoyed. And with us, when it goes bad, we're devastated. And one of the things my dad taught me growing up is, that all you got to do is just keep trying. There's no reason you can't get up, keep trying. You can't, get better every day, work harder at it. And if you fail, at least you try, and I think that athletes and kids and stuff like that, because to me, the most beautiful thing about athletics is, even though there's money involved in the game more, even in the college aspect and stuff like that, it still teaches a lesson that nothing else in life really did. And that's, teamwork, working hard, being the best you can. When you fail, get up and go after it again. And that's something that sports teaches. And that's why, some people have come to me and said, can you watch sports anymore? Do you think they should outlaw football and stuff like that? There's a lot of things in this world, especially in the last 20 years that, and I'm not getting political, but have gone to hell. But sports is still that pure thing that we all have on the most basic level, where you can say, there's good lessons that you're not going to learn in other areas. Right. At the end of the day in sports, if you work your tail off, you're gonna see results. You may not become a pro NFL player, but you make your high school team, you make the varsity squad, you score 10 points in a game. And I think that those lessons convey to life. And I think anybody who's played any organized sports or anything like that, they can tell you that those things translate to other things. As John Cena says, our future president, hustle, loyalty, respect. That's never give up. That's my man there. He knows what he's saying.
Wow. Oh, wrestling reference on this show.
Listen, if you guys want to talk wrestling, I can go for about 17 hours. I'm a huge wrestling fan,
so
don't even get me started.
Well, Garrett, you just opened up a door here. You're on Out of the Box, and we were actually just talking about a new wrestling show coming. We had one prior, but listen, after what you just said, man, you might be the new featured host on that show.
Hey, anytime.
All right.
And Gary,
I can go off for 7 hours.
Gary, I got 25 years in the professional wrestling business, so I am an active pro wrestler as we speak. So yeah, I understand.
Oh, that's great.
Garrett, I have a question for you. We talked several times, between you and I. listen, I lived in Philadelphia for about 30 years. I just moved up near Johnstown, near Pittsburgh, like an hour away. And when you mention, Pittsburgh icons, your dad is one of the first persons they mention. You talk about Bradshaw, Swan, Franco Harris, and Iron Mike comes up there. But growing up, I want to know, your dad has some serious accolades. 4-time Super Bowl champ, 8-time All-Pro first team, second team 2 times, 9 Pro Bowls. And this one blows me away. 75th anniversary all-time team, 80s and 70s decade player. What was the one accolade that your dad, because listen, I'm a Cowboys fan. We have 5 Super Bowls, and there's teams out there that never even seen a Super Bowl. Your dad's seen 4 of them. What was your biggest accolade that your dad was most proud of, besides having sons, of course? What was his biggest accolade?
I'll tell you, he was. My dad was an absolute pushover for his daughters, so he was more proud of the daughters than he was his sons. But I'm going to tell you something, and it's not necessarily an accolade. He never, all those things you mentioned, he never. Now he did have, and as I've grown up, I can tell the spots, especially. I can see, as we all do, we all see parts of our dad's personality in ourselves. Sure. And I can tell the things that dad would kind of get prickly about, he was never a boisterous person. Never, we didn't have any trophies up. We didn't have any, he didn't wear his Super Bowl rings or anything like that. They were in the safety deposit box. He didn't carry himself. If you read the stories, you'll hear stories, if you come around Pittsburgh, of dad walking into a regular, gas station, standing there and talking to somebody for 2 hours and stuff like that. So he looked at himself like a normal guy. And the thing he was most proud of was there was a period, I believe it was for 6 seasons, where dad didn't miss a snap. And that means punts and field goals. And he would constantly, not constantly, but that was the thing he was most proud of. He would, he'd be mad. I remember when Dermani took over for him. And, Dermani snapped field goals for a while. I don't think he did punts. I can't remember. They don't really keep track of that stat on NFL Reference or whatever the good stat site is. But I remember, dad would always say, have the center snap punts and field goals, snap those punts and field goals. Because I think he looked at it, because even though, he didn't grow up in Pittsburgh, he really adapted that working man mentality, that blue collar mentality Pittsburgh has. And he grew up in Wisconsin. So, it's not like that's a, one of those big luxury cities like Dallas or anything like that. But, he looked at himself as a working guy. And to me, to him, that represented, coming in, doing your day's work. That's what you're there for, is to do all those things. And he took great pride in snapping for punts and field goals as well as the regular aspects. That was a big deal to him. I think that meant more to him than any of the Super Bowls or any of the Pro Bowls or anything like that. He definitely loved the fact that he was recognized by his peers and by the people around him and that he played with, that, they thought a lot of him. And the other thing, too, that might surprise you that he was very, very proud of is my dad was actually a very good golfer, and he won a couple Pro-Ams and stuff like that. And he loved golf. I remember, when my dad passed away, the 3 or 4 years, before that, he didn't watch too much football. He kind of he was always aware of what was going on, and he'd always kind of pay attention to it. And he wouldn't admit it, but he'd get mad when the Steelers lost, and or the Badgers especially. That was his team. Barry Alvarez and the Ron Dane Badgers and stuff. I'll always remember I think it was the '98 Rose Bowl where they beat UCLA. And my dad was in the basement, and he didn't want to watch the game. He was just like me. He was a very nervous watcher. He full of energy, couldn't stand it, hated just sitting there and watching that stuff. So he'd go down the basement, and and that was a big game. If any of you guys, I'm sure it's a long time ago, so I don't know if anybody remembers it. But Ron Dane had a couple big touchdown runs. I think on the first play of the game, this one guy for Wisconsin, Chris Chambers, was wide open for a touchdown pass, and he dropped it. And I remember and that was a big deal then with Wisconsin because they were a terrible team. So everybody in the state was watching the game. So we had people over to watch the game and stuff. And of course we all, you do the cheer and then when he misses it, being in the basement, he'd run upstairs and say, "What happened? What happened? I don't want to know. I don't want to know." And then he'd go back downstairs. And then he'd find some reason to come back upstairs and watch the game and stuff like that. But anyways, his last few years, the biggest things he watched were he watched basketball with me. I was a big Lakers and Shaquille O'Neal fan, and we'd watch Tiger. He loved Tiger Woods. He thought Tiger Woods was just amazing. So those were the big things that he watched and he cared about.
Wow, that's amazing. That up here, living in Johnstown, I met Trayshawn Wiggins. He's the 8th ranked boxer in the world, and when you look at people like that, you think, wow, this guy would never even say hello to me, let alone shake my head, let alone talk to me. We became great friends, and that's something that you don't see from athletes anymore. Just in the aspect of your dad, very humble, and it's a true statement of what Pittsburgh is. It's a steel collar system where a community that helps each other out, and everybody knows you by your first name, basically. And that's the way your dad seemed that he was.
Pittsburgh's a very special city. I mean, there's the jokes about Pittsburgh, and some of them are pretty funny. But as I like to say, Pittsburgh's one of the few places in the world that embraces their stereotypes and has fun with them. And if somebody's in Pittsburgh and they're not humble and they're not that way, they're going to get shipped out pretty quickly.
Right.
And I know it's like that in other cities, but every city and state kind of has a different way that they treat athletes. In Texas, I mean, hell, high school football players are probably as big as celebrities as pro football players are here. And that's just the way it is. And that's kind of a fascinating thing about fans and stuff like that. And I think it's a really cool aspect of it. But Dad always, he grew me up and really taught me to try to stay humble, try to remember that you're not better than anybody else and nobody's better than you. And you have a right to everything and stuff like that. So, I think and again, that goes back to sports. That's a lesson that I think we all should learn, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Gotcha. Mike, before we let you go, let's go around the table. If there's one more question real quick that we can ask, Garrett, that's all been on your mind. As like I said, we're historians of the game. I'm a Cowboy fan. They're Eagles fans. But the first thing we can agree on, we're NFL fans first and foremost. And the guys like your father paved the way for us to enjoy what we watch today. So,
as a Cowboys fan, I have to tell you, my dad would say the toughest guy he played against was Randy White.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Randy White.
He said Randy White, Howie Long, but Randy White was up there.
Wow. Cool. Okay. Mike, do you want to go ahead real quick and ask one final question before Garrett get out of here?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay. Sean?
I'm good, man. Good stories.
Joe, I know it's puzzling you on your mind. I got something. Your head's beaming there. You're ready to go and ask this question. Go ahead.
No, I don't really necessarily have a question. I was just saying how like I've been to Pittsburgh a few times, and about a month ago I had my first Permane brothers, and that was like phenomenal. So that's
something you got to get a taste for. It's something that you think shouldn't work, but it works somehow. We put fries on everything here, but
the Roethlisberger, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Roethlisberger. I do have to tell the Ravens fan one thing that hopefully he'll get a kick out of is.
Oh yeah.
I was a big video game player growing up and stuff like that. As I think everybody was. My dad wasn't a big fan. He thought kids should be outside playing. But one year we got Madden, and my dad was a huge John Madden fan, and John Madden loved my dad and did a lot of nice things for him and stuff like that. Even though he's not in the game, don't open that wound. But they had back then they would do the all-time teams for the rosters, and but it would just be numbers. So it would just be 52 and stuff like that. So my dad wanted to see every year he'd kind of look in and want to see how Bradshaw looked, what his ratings were and stuff like that. And he wanted me to do a game because this was the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl, and they were saying they had the best defense of all time, and which drove my dad crazy because he said they just did it for one season. They didn't do it for 4 or 5 seasons like we did. But we did a game, and we pulled because they had the playbook, so some of the plays were very similar. So Dad could see them and say, "This is what we'd run in that situation." And we ran a trap play where he blocked Ray Lewis, and on the play he blocks Ray Lewis or his avatar, whatever video game character, and Dad pancaked him, and Dad made me replay it about 8 times.
Oh,
and he thought it was
awesome.
Great. He said this is realistic right here, and he liked Ray Lewis. He did. It's not a knock on Ray Lewis, but I think he really got a kick out of that.
But
not many of us can say we pancake Ray Lewis.
Definitely not the legal system of Florida.
Hey, I actually do have a question. Now that you mentioned Terry Bradshaw, Do you think Terry Bradshaw gets as many accolades as he should get in the as far as being a 4-time Super Bowl champion? I mean, when they bring up like the all-time great quarterbacks, you never really hear Bradshaw, but yet Bradshaw has four rings, the same as Montana.
Yeah,
I think that, and first off, my dad was fiercely protective of Terry Bradshaw and hated on TV where he'd make fun of himself and stuff like that. And my mom will still tell me stories to this day of Dad being very protective of Terry and having Terry over for dinner and stuff like that. And my mom would always joke that Dad and Mom would know when Terry had a bad game, it's because he got broken up with the night before or had a bad. Terry is a big sensitive guy. But to answer your question, yeah, Terry absolutely doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I think one of the reasons, especially post his playing career, is it's the same. He's football's Charles Barkley. You watch Charles Barkley and you don't know how good Charles Barkley was as a player because you just see him as this kind of joking guy and everybody makes the jokes that he's fat. But go back and watch Charles Barkley play in the Suns or the Sixers.
I lived it.
He was a bad man. Okay.
Yeah, we lived it. We're all from Philly, Mike. We've seen him play.
He was a damn good player. And, I think that Terry, his own sense of humor and sense of who he is, I think that's kind of downgraded it. And also, I think playing quarterback for the Steelers is a very weird thing because the truth of the matter is, if you came to, everybody talks about Ben Roethlisberger and they love Ben Roethlisberger now. Up until about his last 2 or 3 years, they wanted him traded every year. They couldn't stand him, and I think the thing is in Pittsburgh wants a blue collar, run the ball, play great defense. And we would rather go 8-8 with a great defense and running the ball and pounding it and that old, thing than throwing for 5,000 yards a game. And, that has changed a little bit, I just because of how the game has changed. But, I think that with Terry was asked basically run the play action pass and throw bombs, and that's why, his completion percentage for his career, I think, is exactly 50%. I think his touchdown to interception ratio is not high. And I think that, you see that stuff, it's not like Roger Staubach and Johnny Unitas and stuff, or even Montana. And I think, and also with the Steelers, you think of the defense. You think of, Joe Green, Jack Lambert, But if you go watch those Super Bowls, and Dad would always say this about the last 2 Super Bowls in particular, the one with Dallas and the one with the Rams, that offense won them the game. The Steelers' defense in those last 2 Super Bowls were kind of on their last legs. And Terry came up big in both of those games, and they would not have won it without him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, Gary, we have one comment out there. He has a question for you. Who could bench more, John Kolb or Iron Mike?
Dad was not. Dad did win the NFL Strongest Man competition a few times.
Wow.
But now between those two, because I know that they were guys, Dad and John Kolb, and as it went on, weightlifting wasn't a big thing in the NFL during that point. There's a story that Mean Joe Green never lifted a weight in his life until about like 76 or so. And I remember my dad telling me how he put him on his first weight training program. Dad believed in, there was no, he would always say to me, and he would say this too about John Kolb, and I don't mean this as a knock on John Kolb whatsoever, is Dad would say, you can bench 600 pounds 3 times. We all go to the gym, see that idiot who's got 5,000, and I'm not calling John Kolb an idiot, but has, X amount of plate, 37 plates on each side. They do it twice and they're done. Dad would say, why do that? Do 225 15 to 20 times.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the world that you're going to need that's 225 pounds isn't going to, make you lift over with. You know what I mean? If you can lift 225 pounds 15 times, you can lift anything. You're not going to have a 600-pound lineman coming at you, 35 times a game. You're going to have a 250, 300-pound guy coming at you 15 times a game. So, I'd say probably if you just had straight up just bench pressing, John Kolb would probably lift a little more. But I think that when it came to endurance and reps and all that kind of stuff, I think that's where Dad would have him beat. And that's something that, that was just Dad's personal philosophy when it came to lifting weights and exercising, is that it makes more sense to do stuff repeatedly and do it correctly than doing 2 or 3 reps of X amount of weight.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, real quick before we let you go, I have one question for you, but it's all about the viewers here. Now, here's a great one. This is actually on my mind as well. Did your dad ever talk about the Immaculate Reception, or as us Raider fans would call it, the Immaculate Deception?
Hey, whatever the Raiders fans need to tell themselves, go right ahead. You can go catch those games in the Oakland Coliseum. That's right. No, you can't. But I know one thing. My dad hated the Raiders more than he said that was the only team that my mom would say. Because every once in a while, I'll ask my mom about dad playing and stuff like that. Because obviously there's it's a difficult subject even to this day for us to talk about sometimes and stuff like that. But, he would say, the Raiders were the team they hated the most, because they would come up, all the guys would come out beat up and cheap shots and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But also you need those rivalries. And that's how the game was played back then. That's not a knock on it. I don't think the Steelers would have been the Steelers if they didn't have the Raiders, because people forget how good that rivalry was, all the way through the 70s and 80s. It's like I've got a friend of mine on social media who's a big Oilers fan, Houston Oilers, and I love those uniforms. They never should have taken away those uniforms. And how big that rivalry was with the Steelers and the Oilers. Yeah. And it's one of those forgotten things of football past, unfortunately. Right. And I mean, the Eagles and the Niners, that was a big rivalry, back, in the 80s when they were doing well and Randall Cunningham was there and stuff like that. But, I think that with my dad, with what he said, now also as a kid, I thought my dad played in that game. I would ask him and he would say, I was listening to it in college. That was 1972. That was 2 years before he was drafted. But he said, that was a catch. It was a catch. It was a touchdown. That's all that matters. There's it's like the holding call against Juju Smith-Schuster in the Super Bowl. It doesn't, and that's not me making fun of the situation. At the end of the day, that's the play that was called. And you look at that corner that had that call, and that must have absolutely killed him. And but at the end of the day, and he took responsibility and moved on. And he's going to be a better player for that. Yeah. Or you saw when the Bengals were playing the Chiefs in the championship game, when that guy in the last play of the game got a roughing the passer call on him when he kind of hit Patrick Mahomes as he was going out of bounds. If you watch that play, there's nothing he can do. He's just trying to make a play. It wasn't a dirty hit, and people were out there blaming him. Or you look at DeMar Hamlin for obviously a more serious extent, but a lesser one. How much one play can mess with everything. I mean, of course, the greatest one is the David Tyrell helmet catch against the Patriots, which, let's be honest, we all thank God for every day because Boston fans are the fucking worst. But we can all agree everybody from Boston should just go fuck themselves. But, and that's coming from a Yankee fan who lived through 2004 and the 0-3 comeback. So trust me, Boston fans, if you're listening, you have your revenge on me already. But it's amazing in sports how that one play can crystallize not just an entire season, but a moment in our lives and everything that goes on. Like I was talking about with D. Gordon hitting that home run, or the receiver for the Niners who lost his baby that morning and came back and played and stuff like that. You look at the Immaculate Reception, and that was, even though I do consider myself a sports historian and stuff like that, I can't think of a play before that was widely available on TV that was as big of a miracle play or a shocker or iconic, whatever you want to call it. Maybe Bart Starr's quarterback sneak in the Ice Bowl. But even then, I don't think that was that widely publicized at that point. Right. Like Muhammad Ali, his victories or his when he won the title as Cassius Clay, I don't think that was even on TV. I think it was, that. I think, you got to look at the Immaculate Reception and probably WrestleMania 3 when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre. Those are big moments. Those are things that crystallize a moment in the world, really. I mean, in our country and in the world. You look at all the stuff that's going on around those times, and those are the benchmarks that we hold on to as fans and as people, and we remember that stuff.
Yeah, not to bring up a sore subject for you as a Yankees fan, but like you just had me thinking like the Dave Roberts stolen base in Game 4. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, everybody. I was at a bar watching that game. I had a buddy that was one of my buddies was a Red Sox fan, and he was just saying, "Oh, you know what? I just don't want to get swept." And the next thing you know, they win that game. Dave Roberts steals that base. Then then Poppy gets the hit,
You're talking about Mariano Rivera, the hammer of God, who's closed out everyone and their mother.
Right.
It's not just one game, not just have one bad game, 2 games. And you look at not just and we talk about sports and we say it's just sports. Look at how many Boston fans who went through so many, and sports is a big deal in people's life, especially in working class cities like Boston, stuff like that. How many fans and families went through depression and sadness and stuff like that with the Red Sox, blowing it so many times, and, you look at that play, that stolen base, you look at, let's say, look at Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez was having an amazing series. In the game before that, remember, he had 2 home runs, stuff like that. After that series, he never recovered, especially in the playoffs, and other than that 1 year in 2009 when he was insane, maybe he doesn't go on steroids after that. Maybe, I know that he said that he did it with Texas for, those couple of years beforehand, but who knows what happens? Who knows what happens if he doesn't, if they win that game? Who knows what the legacy is of Derek Jeter? Not that he obviously has a bad legacy or something, but then you go from that to the Red Sox game where he has that, or as a Yankees fan, look at after 9/11 with Derek Jeter and his heroics. Would he be as big of
Are you there, Garrett?
World Series?
Okay.
Right.
And there are amazing aspects of that in sports that you don't see in anything else.
Right.
Yeah, Derek Jeter, Mr. November. I still remember that game. I think it was like game 5, I think, in 01.
Yeah.
I think, Mr. November.
Game. I think it was 2 games. I think it was games 4 and 5.
Yeah, that was
Byung Hung Kim.
Yep.
I remember there was a great cartoon in the paper that I remember was because all that was after 9/11 and all this crazy, terrible stuff's happening in the world. And it was a little kid asking the priest, he says, if God's real, why is he spending so much time helping the Yankees? and it was, it was one of those sweet things, it was just, but that was the thing though. You look at that Yankees Red Sox rivalry, and I do think it's lost quite a bit from what it was before that. For how that, and you look at all the torture Boston went through until that happened. And for them to win it, I mean, there is no more poetic or more storybook way for them to finally beat that curse of the Yankees. After the Yankees outdo them and get A-Rod, the best player in baseball, the new Babe Ruth, and that's how they come back and win. You look at, the Patriots with their 19-0 season and, their arrogance and them blowing out teams, and you thinking this is, and then what happens? They go and lose to Eli freaking Manning and a catch off the helmet.
Right.
You look or the Raiders. You talk about the Raiders. I mean, say what you want about them, everything else. They played dirty. I mean, they always did. No, I don't think any even Raiders fans can argue that. For them to lose those games on the Immaculate Reception, there's got to be some part of you that says that's freaking karma. Right there. And you look at, I was talking about Michael Jordan. Look at the amazing acts he's pulled off. I was watching your intro. You saw Tim Tebow. Look at the things Tim Tebow did in college that are just storybook and insane. Yeah. There's this stuff that, like I said, happens in sports that doesn't happen anywhere else. And it's amazing. It's why we love it. It's why these guys, that hold on. And they mean more than just, and that's something that gets me mad. It means more than just a game or guys, you'll see people who don't like sports will make fun of it and say, oh, it's just a stupid game. What does that matter? It does matter, because there's people that's what they look to. Like I said, Iron Man, Batman, they're not real, but Joe Montana, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Mike Webster, those guys are real.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather raised me Notre Dame Saturdays, Eagles Sundays, and I have so many, I have so many memories, and it's not even necessarily about the game. I mean, I remember things just from sporting events, but I mean, I can remember like being with my grandfather, like going to church, getting donuts, getting ready for Eagles Redskins, and then and then you look at the Eagles. The Eagles won the Super Bowl 2017 season, and there were literally people going to that parade with like urns of like their family members, and that's how much it meant to people.
And look at how they won it with the Philly special, with all this crazy stuff that happened in that game. Or you go and you look at one of the things I'll say about the Patriots. Every Super Bowl they could have lost. They could be the Bills times 10. They could every Super Bowl they won. They won it. I'm not sitting there denying them or not, because I don't want to sound like I'm just crapping on them or something. But they won those games, and you look at Brady and stuff. Some of these things, like and it will always come up. In my opinion, one of the greatest or worst calls in sports is the Marshawn Lynch on the 1 yard line. All you got to do is run the ball, run it 4 straight times. That was. With the Steelers, that would what drive Dad nuts against Cowher and with the Chiefs is they would get to the end of the game and they would try to be more clever and get away from what got them there.
Yeah,
and you see, and that's what happened in that game. I think you saw it in the Super Bowl, this Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Chiefs. Look how much they were killing the Chiefs in the first half, running the ball, eating up the clock. There's something to be said for all this stuff about offense and quarterbacks and stuff like that, about running the ball and having a great defense.
Yeah.
And if they would have come out with that same game plan in the second, because they couldn't stop Jalen Hurts running the ball. He was running everywhere on them. And so, and they were running the ball normal anyways. And, who knows what happens. And in my opinion, what happened, Philly got too cute and thought, let's turn it into a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. Right. And you're not going to win that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Garrett, I got one question for you before you let you go. Time flies when you have, we're historians. We love listening to you, the stories of, your dad. We hear your dad talking through your voice, basically, is what we hear here. Mm-hmm. But my last question before we let you go. Growing up, your dad is Iron Mike, the, Hall of Famer. You're Pittsburgh. You're all Pittsburgh yourself. But let me ask you, what one athlete from the Pittsburgh Steelers are you in awe when you first met for the first time? Or do you still have a relationship that you talk to some of the players when your dad played now?
I don't, I think, even though everybody in Pittsburgh is very humble, and there's a lot of athletes from Pittsburgh who still live in this area and stuff like that. I don't really keep in contact, rest in peace Tunch, but he would check in every once in a while. Craig Worthley, Franco, Mr. Rooney, the person who owns the Steelers now, he checks in every once in a while. Wow. But, the guys that I'm most in awe of, there's 2 of them, 3 of them specifically. One of them is Mean Joe. I've been lucky enough to see him a couple times, and obviously it's Mean Joe. What else can you say? But I remember always seeing Franco and seeing how big Franco was. And I don't mean that he was fat he still looked like he could play, and he still had a grin on his face and was just, was happy and stuff like that. And I'm glad that's my memory of Franco. I remember him, one of the last times I saw him, I remember him doing the ladder drill because we were on the sidelines. There was some thing they were honoring a Steelers team. I think it was their 80th team or something like that. And he was playing with the kids of somebody and stuff like that. And then the other one is Dermontti Dawson. And I say that because there's something about Dermontti when we see him, and my mom says the same thing. When he walk, athletes have that walk. And offensive linemen especially have that walk. That kind of – it's not swagger, because if you're a receiver or running back or whatever, you have the swagger. With offensive linemen, it's kind of this like – I just want to call it almost like a cowboy walk. I don't want to say a strut because that makes it sound too fancy. But I remember seeing Dermontti, and it would remind me because my dad's hands – that's always what I'll remember with my dad until the day I die is how big his hands were and how just massive they were. And Dermontti has kind of the same. He doesn't have the fingers sticking in 8 different directions, thank God, but he does have those big hands, and he has always got a chaw and a tobacco in his back pocket. And just seeing him walk around, it reminds me of my dad. And those are the 2 that I think I am the most in awe of. And really think about, and always brings a smile to my face when I see him. But I've met a ton of great Pittsburgh athletes from, Santonio Holmes, Pete Gonzalez, who was a quarterback for Pitt for a while, Mario Lemieux, stuff like that. Those guys are amazing. But, to me, it's always been about the personal connections. It's like Dad said, it's not the 4 Super Bowls, it's snapping for punts and field goals. And for me, it's the athletes and stuff like that have that personal connection.
Right.
The kindness of Troy Polamalu's hair, I'll also give a thing to, because his hair is insane.
Head and shoulders, baby.
Yeah, right. Hey, well, Garrett, before we let you go, man, I appreciate you hopping on and listen. Your father, I didn't never see your father play, but my dad was a Cowboy fan, and if he was still alive, he would say that's one iron son of a bitch right there, Mike Webster. But coming from, a 5th round pick to the Hall of Fame, an icon of the state of Pittsburgh, of the city of Pittsburgh, is a true testament of just like what Sean said, your dad said in the Hall of Fame speech. You work hard, you play hard, you're going to achieve anything you want to do in life. And your dad was a true testament to that, man. So, Garrett, from myself,
thank you.
Mike, Sean, man, we appreciate you. Time flies for having you on here. We wanted you on for like 10 minutes, but brother, listen, you have a home here anytime you want to speak some football, baseball. Hell, we even know you're a wrestling fan, so you have a home here anytime you want.
That's right. WrestleMania is coming up.
There we go. So, Garrett, hey, I appreciate you hopping on, brother. Listen, is there any foundation that your dad's still involved with that maybe we can put a link on the Out of the Box scenario here to help you out?
We don't really have any foundations. We do have a GoFundMe right now for us. That's up on my Facebook page, and obviously, I'm sure you'll get the link for it and put it up there. Trying to find a good house for us to live in here. So that's the main thing.
All right, we'll definitely do that. You're part of the Out of the Box here. We're all about family and the viewers, so we'll definitely, put that link up there. Anything that helps out will help you out as well. So, Garrett, once again, man, we appreciate you hopping on. Thank you for taking the time here. We're all different fans here, but one thing we can agree on is where the foundations were laid, and your dad was one of the true icons, brother.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Hey, thank you very much, guys.
Thank
you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, man. Wow, that's like listening to a historic NFL Network historian channel right there. If you think about it, sometimes paved the way for us, guys. But
I love sports history, man. I mean, as you guys know, so I know you guys do too. But I mean, you start bringing up like events that happen, like like he said, like the one moment in sports, like. That's what's so great about sports. One particular moment can change history, and it can change somebody's life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like as crazy as that sounds, one event can change somebody's life. I mean,
and it sticks out.
It
sticks out forever. You know what I mean? You're always going to remember that one play or that one moment.
Dude, the one thing I'll take away from like a memory would be, I didn't get a chance to make the Eagles parade, and but there was a video of this guy, had to be in his 70s. He's sitting down at the parade route. The players are walking by.
Yep.
He had his wife's urn.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jason Kelsey walked up to him, and dude, I get choked up just thinking about it because
absolutely.
Kelsey walks up to him, and he goes, and he kind of like was startled, and the guy said, she was a huge Eagles fan. I wanted to bring her. And Kelsey toasted her, dude, and it was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, it was – and he, like, literally walked over. He goes, well, this is for you and your wife, sir, and did a beer with him. And, like, like you talk about how that life is. Just think about how good that guy felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So,
just
you're right, Joe. Like,
moment.
Memory, I mean, it's crazy, dude, just to think about stuff like that. I get choked up thinking about that, and I always saw it on – like YouTube. Like I can imagine if I was there, dude, I would have been a tissue homework moment crying baby. Like, but
I still remember, I still remember watching Sean, you were at my house, my grandparents' house, and I still remember Sean sitting on the couch right next to me. My grandpop's over here, and we're watching Notre Dame play, and Chris Collinsworth had the famous line where he said about Ron Tallis, he's like, "Move over, Montana," and we all looked at each other like, "Little quick for that," you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
But I still remember that. And then Sean, you were over at my grandparents' house for Dallas 4th and 1. Remember that?
Yes.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
I was at that game. That was, dude, that was one of the loudest times I think I ever heard the vet.
Yeah,
It was during that game. And you know what? And it was funny too because my tag team partner, my buddy Sean Frizzle, who was my tag team partner for years, big dude, diehard Cowboys fan, was sitting right next to me with his throwback Emmitt Smith jersey on. Turned around, looked me dead in the eye, and goes, "This is why I hate Barry Switzer."
I don't blame him.
Excuse me. But, man, Paul, let me ask you a question. Hearing him talk, right? Didn't it not just take you back of sitting around watching football with your folks?
Yeah. Let me tell you something, man. Listen, I'm turning 52 this year, and honestly, Mike was a way before my time. Honestly, for any of our time.
I remember. But like I said, he was the tail end.
But you know, I think about it, and this takes me back to when, just like Joe said, you're sitting there, your grandfather's right next to you. To me, this is like when I used to sit next to my dad on his lap sometimes, and of course, we watched the Cowboys game. Him being a Marine, Cowboys were all on TV. That's why I became a fan. Still am. But it took me back to where, like, and some of the things he said was just so humble. You know, his dad wasn't the icon. His dad was a father first. You know, and to me, that's like it's the little things in life that go a long way because you sit there and, like, God rest my dad's soul. You know, now I can sit there and listen to you, Mike, say about Kelsey and the guy with the urn. To me, I was blessed to see 3 Super Bowls, you know, one live at the Super Bowl, one parade, and one we missed our first year here. But it just takes me back to the days where, like, family first, man, you know, family first. That's where it all acknowledged football. You became a fan of football. You know, it's not what team you like. It's going back to when you sat next to your dad, your grandfather, the best memories of football to me. And that was just like, we're not Steelers fans, but listening to Garrett talk about his dad, it makes you a fan of the game to where it all began to me.
Well, look at the accolades, like you said, with Mike Webster. It just stands out, man. Like,
dude, the guy was a part of the 70. He was a part of the 75th.
It's amazing, and he was an awesome old lineman, like we all could agree on.
Dude,
he was the baddest. He was the baddest lineman in the league for a long time. And
yes, he was. I'll tell you what. I'll give you another quick story too. Like, speaking about family, Paul, I told you, my dad, my uncles, they were all Cowboy fans. The coolest thing was when Ev was old enough to start watching football. Literally in my father's living room, it was me, Ev, and my dad watching the Eagles-Cowboys game. This is before Ev became a Giants fan. Before he even knew what Big Blue was. He was just chilling, watching the game with me and my pop, eating food, watching the game, and I just thought, wow, dude, like, this is really cool. You know what I mean? And
man,
like I said, hearing Garrett talk about that, man, it takes you back, especially. Like, I imagine, you know, when we all got kids, so, you know, watching the games with your kids, man, it's like, all right, I do remember that, you know.
Well, just like you said with the Super Bowl, it'll always stick out with me because I lost my dad that year, and I went down to the Super Bowl parade, and I almost kind of felt like a sense some of him was with me. And just like you said with the man with the woman's urns, I just took a moment looking at the Eagles. I ain't gonna lie, I cried, wishing he was there.
If you were an Eagles,
those little things, man. And he was a diehard. Joey can tell you that.
Yeah,
too.
If you were an Eagles fan, man, listen.
Yeah.
You shed a tear when that clock hit 000. I don't care who you are.
Absolutely.
If you're an Eagles fan, when that was 41-33. You shed a tear because it was all the weight was finally lifted off. There's no more. You don't have any Super Bowls. Now we're a part. You know, we're not at the big boy table, but you know, we're not at the kids table no more.
You know what? The funny thing is, listening to Garrett talk, when he said his dad's strongest player that he played against was Randy White. Okay, that was my dad's favorite player. Number one,
mine too.
Number 54. You know, and you guys probably don't know this. I've probably never said this, but every year. Week 1, I bring out 2 jerseys. My favorite player, Jason Witten, and I bring out the old, like, has shit all over it, number 54, Randy White, and I sit it there to honor my dad because that's where it started with me. You know? And that's something like, I almost shed a tear. I don't know if you guys can see it on the show. And I was sitting there, I was like,
good, man.
Like, wow, man. Like, you know, you just rest in peace, my dad. But it just brought me back to a memory. And I just want to say, like, Dad, hey, thank you for making me a fan of what I am today. I appreciate that. And that's
It's
what
always
that's
that,
what
man.
that's like to me with you guys. You guys are family. We're all brothers here. We all get along. And to me, it's just, yeah, you're Eagles fans. I'm a Cowboy fan. But brother, listen to me. If you need something, I'm going to be the first one at your door. And I know that you guys are the same way. And that's what it's all about. Family, then football. And that's what it means to me to have like someone like Garrett talk about his dad the way he did.
Yeah, well, it's funny because
man.
You're bringing this up, and like I've never been a quote unquote Steelers fan. You know what I mean? Obviously, but dude, I've always respected the shit out of the Steelers.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you look at like, because I'll be honest, like the way the Steelers play football, at least since I've been watching, is everything I like about football. I love the way they play defense. The Steelers are
Yes.
I associate
Get right at you. Punch you in the mouth.
associate
Exactly.
Pittsburgh Steelers football with like physical, blitzing. They always
They
had
were
those
gritty.
blitzes,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It goes. I mean, I didn't see the '70s teams, but I mean, I saw the
80s, the 90s,
the Joey Porter Juniors, the Levon
The
Kirkland
betters.
when he was good, not when we had him. You know what I mean? Levon Kirkland and Kevin Green when he was with
Yes.
us. You know what I'm saying? And then you take it to James Harrison and like that rivalry between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, that was physical as shit.
Yes, it was, man.
And I mean, that's
Yeah, I still remember my dad saying, they were called the Steel Curtain for a reason. You look at Jasper Lambert out there, people like that were missing 5 teeth, and it was cool to be missing 5 teeth on a football field. That's the way my dad grew up. But let's move on real quick. You guys want to talk about some AFC North here? Because I'm kind of hyped up to talk about these teams now.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into it. That's what we came here to do. And of course, we're talking about the AFC North here. Our Twitter poll, OOTBS Sports. We talked about it. They say the AFC North. Real quick, I wanted to ask you guys real quick before we get into the teams. I ran a poll. I put this in the group chat. Of all the people that voted, they say the Bengals are 100% sweep this year. What do we think about that? Real quick.
No, I'm not sold on that.
Nah, not at all, man. They got an issue which I'll bring up once I get on with it. But yeah, nah, I think it's going to be probably
a little flip around.
Neck and neck.
Okay.
Some spice in action. Yeah.
Well, I mean, since the Twitter poll said the Bengals are out there going to win the AFC North, I believe, Sean, I think you got something to say about that then, right?
Yeah. So the Bengals are 12-3 last year, or this year, excuse me. And they're already having some contract problems. One guy wants to be traded, Jonah Williams. So word is the Jets want to make a trade. Supposedly a proposed trade with Michael Becton and Jonah Williams and a couple draft picks, but they're going to have to move on from probably Joe Mixon because of his legal issues, which we brought up last week, and Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow, man. He's ice cool, but they're going to have to definitely fix that offensive line, like Joey always says, to give him that protection. They're going to have to address the tight end position, and defense has always been where it's at, but they lost a couple guys. Jesse Bates to Atlanta, and key addition was Orlando Brown Jr. coming from the Chiefs.
That's huge. Yeah. It's a staple point on the offensive line. Yeah, staple point.
Yeah, so the mock drafts that I'm seeing is they draft the Kincaid kid from Utah. So
the tight end, right?
Yeah, tight end to fill that need. I think they go elsewhere, but what are your thoughts on the Bengals?
Well, let me ask you. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was saying that could the Bengals, if Mixon does have some legal problems, could the Bengals? I was going to say they lost Samaje Perine too. Could the Bengals?
Broncos.
Could the Bengals be a landing spot for one of the running backs, whether it's Bijan Robinson or the kid from Alabama? I wonder.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my question too. If they lose Mixon, what do they do with the legal standpoint with Perine gone? Do they take a shot at a Robinson or a Gibbs? What do they do?
Yeah, I think.
Or do they go Zeke? Or do they go Zeke? Cheap price Zeke.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean,
Kareem Hunt's still out there.
Kareem Hunt.
I feel like Kareem Hunt would be a nice fit on the Bengals, and he'd be able to stick it up the Browns' ass twice a year.
Man.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Better way.
I mean, you're also forgetting, too, you got Robinson out there, too. James Robinson used to be with the Jags. He's still out there. I mean, there's a ton of options at running back for them.
I think James Robinson signed with the Patriots, Mike, if I believe.
All right, well then Damian Harris.
Yeah.
Damian Harris.
Damian Harris signed with the Bills.
Damian Harris just got signed. Damian Harris just got
On
signed.
your
Oh,
deal
well,
with
he
the
must
Bills.
have just got signed because he was
Yesterday it happened. Last night, yeah.
Yeah, I was
That
about
was
to say
too shocking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so but I'll tell you what, like to me, them losing Hayden Hurst is
Big loss.
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
loss.
Big
man. Like,
loss.
they're-
Yeah.
You know, who knows, man? They might go and draft your boy from Notre Dame, then that baby Gronk.
Oh, baby Gronk Mayer, huh? Hmm.
He would fit well there, you know. But
Well, I mean, just like Sean said, according to the draft, they're looking at Kincaid. I mean, to me, Mayer's the better option. That's what Notre Dame fans have seen him play. But if they're leaning toward a tight end, but you never know. I mean, with Mixon's legal issues, that's a huge selling point right there. What do? Do you go draft if a Robinson or a Gibbs is there for you? Do you take that, or you go best available? What do you do? Fill gaps or best available? What do you do?
The Bengals actually lost 2 safeties, by the way. They lost Von Bell too. So
Right, yeah, sure.
they did sign a guy from the Rams.
Josh Scott from the Rams. Josh Scott, yes.
That's it. Okay, so sitting at 27, that could be a prime spot for a safety. You know, one of them kids possibly.
Rancher battle, yeah.
Right, that could be a prime spot for safety. And I think the Bengals are pretty good at corner, but I know Eli Apple's getting a little up there. I mean, they could even go corner, maybe, possibly, Or here's a sneaky one. What if there's all right, so we all know they're going to have to pay Jamar Chase eventually. Well,
Yes.
with T. Higgins possibly needing a contract, could the Bengals go wide out?
Yeah, because I think they're going to move on from T. I think he's going to get traded. I think he's going to get traded.
They said they're not trading him. I read an article, but like you said, that's never the case. You never say never. But
and Darius Slay was getting cut last week.
Yeah.
Never left. So I mean, I don't buy nothing that they put out there, man.
Yeah, just like breaking news just now, the Cowboys signed Ezekiel Elliott again.
Oh, did they good for you?
No, I'm just joking. You never know.
Really want him.
Nowadays, yeah, you get breaking news from Adam Schefter. Then all of a sudden, like, well, that ain't the shit he said last night.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, my question is, I have for the Bengals really is that are they going to be able to draft for what their needs are? I mean, your needs is offensive line.
Yeah,
They got. To me, I don't think you worry about the skill position because you have the skill position players. They can easily go, like I say, Joe said Kareem Hunt's out there.
Yeah.
You can sign him, bring him in to go back and forth with Mixon.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, obviously the market isn't what it was for Kareem Hunt because he's not anywhere. You know what I mean? And all these other backs went before him. So
I agree. I think you got to keep Burrows upright first and foremost.
Exactly. You got to give him that protection.
I mean, when you're running for your life, man, there ain't much you can do. And I don't care if you have Jamar Chase, Higgins, who the hell you have out there. You're running for your life. You got to keep your quarterback upright. And he is Joe Cool. He is a franchise player, so you got to keep him upright. So I think they go offensive line if the stud O line, the guy from Northwestern's out there, most likely him.
Peter Skornowski,
go there.
I don't see him lasting that long.
Nah,
I don't either.
As a matter of fact, he's top 10. That's how good he is.
I think he's
got him going to the Jets.
Yeah, I think he's
Or
the
the
first.
Bears. So.
Yep. Well, I mean, Sean, what do you think the record's going to be this year? I mean, of course, we're going to get into the draft, still free agency left over. Give me one person you're going to sign real quick, and what do you think the record is for this year?
11-4, and I think they'll sign.
I can't go 11-4 now.
What?
Can't go 11-4. Can't go 11-4. You say 11-4?
Yeah, 11-5.
Playing 17 games.
Oh.
Are you going with the washed-up cancellation game this year again?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The guy that to sign probably Hendrickson.
Okay.
The DN. He brings a lot of stuff to the table.
All right. So you basically got 12-5 pretty much then, correct? 12-5 for the Bengals.
12-5.
Okay, 12-5. Okay. Real quick, what do you think, Mike? 12-5. You agree?
For the Bengals, I'm going to take a step back. I think they're going to be 10-7 because they got a tough schedule. They got a first place schedule.
Yeah, they do. They do. Joe, what do you got for their schedule? What do you got for their
look at the
record?
schedule. Wow, damn.
I'm gonna say 11-6. But this, I'll tell you, this is a really weird division, bro. And when I get into the team, I'm going to talk about it. Kind of gets into it, but I can see. All right, for instance, I think the Browns made a sneaky good move today, getting Elijah Moore. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's going to help the Browns. You know, you got big creepy Deshaun Watson. Now, here's the thing, right? I thought he looked like crap when he got in there, but he hadn't played in 2 years. Now, I'm kind of interested to see what he's going to look like with a
full year, exactly,
full off season. So that Browns team, I mean, they were almost 500. What were they, 7-10 last year with most of the year. So
Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby, yeah.
Jacoby Brissett, so they could take a step. And Pittsburgh, bro. I mean, Pittsburgh started off bad, but like this kid Pickett can play. You know, this is kind of a tough division now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's up for grabs. I think it's up for grabs. I mean, Bengals are the cream of the crop, but there's still teams that are creeping right now.
Yeah,
and make the right moves. Yep. All right, so I think they're going to be. I'm going to go 11-6. I think they if they can fill the holes that they need to, if they can keep Burrow upright, I think they'll be 11-6 to win the AFC North. But I mean, we got 3 other teams in the division. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next with the Cleveland Browns.
You want to go with the Browns?
Brownies.
Let's go with the dog pound.
Yeah, I'm going with the dog pound, and I'll tell you what, they have a pretty brutal schedule. They have it looks like they got 9 games at home, and 8 on the road. Their out of conference schedule is they play the NFC West this year, so they get San Francisco and Arizona at home, but they travel to Los Angeles and Seattle. So you're kind of looking at that. You're like, they have Jacksonville and Tennessee at home. They travel to Indy and Houston. So I guess they're playing the AFC South.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have their conference games, their divisional games. And I'll tell you what, man, this is looking brutal, but they really did. I mean, they've added some pieces on, they've added some pieces. They signed Matt Adams yesterday, linebacker from Chicago. They signed Mike Ford from Atlanta. They took you guys as Tristan Hill from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He signed. And then today they signed, they got the trade for Elijah Moore. So their needs, they got needs all over the place, the Browns do. Right now they're looking at receiver, a guard, center, tight end, left tackle, defensive tackle, safety, running back. Now here's the kicker with the Browns. They don't have a first round pick. Their first round pick belongs to the Houston Texans. Hence why Houston's picking in the top 10 besides themselves. So with this being said, looking at this schedule, I think the Brownies are going to come in last, and I'm giving them 6 wins. I think they're going to go 6-11. Because this is a very vaunted, if you're looking at them, even if they split, say they're going to split with Cincinnati, they split with them every year. That's one game they get up for. But, I mean, if you just look just at their home schedule alone, they have their 3 divisionals, Arizona, Chicago, Arizona, Chicago, Jacksonville, the Jets, San Francisco, and the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's got to be a little. That's going to be a little. That's just their home schedule. Then you're looking at their road schedule. You got their 3 divisionals. They're at Denver, which I think they can. That might be probably a good game there because Denver's in the midst of rebuilding as well.
Yeah, we don't know what Sean Payton's going to do this year, so you don't even know what. That's all left for a mystery as well.
Right, that's a mystery. Houston's going to be a mystery. I mean, they signed a lot of guys, but let's see what's going to go on down there. Steichen took over in Indy. I'm not. He's going to get time to get his guys together. LA's kind of I don't know. They're just kind of, they're in shambles. So, I mean, really, the only team that is their 3 divisionals and Seattle on the road. Seattle's a tough place to play. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying, they may be better off on the road, but their home schedule's killer. I mean, they got, like I said, dude, Jets, Titans, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Chicago. I mean, these are all teams that have improved. I mean, just off of, a year ago, you got 1, 2, 3, you got 3 playoff teams that are going to be coming in there that they're going to have to play twice. So it's going to be a long haul for the Brownies. And like I said, they don't pick to the second round, and they need a guard center. I would imagine they're going to start going to the inside. Like I said, they did do some nice pickup work. They did kind of get that wide receiver for Deshaun Watson. So maybe they can, I guess, kind of turn it around, I guess, a little bit. But again, like, didn't we hear that they were talking about like releasing Nick Chubb too? So like, you really don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot of holes to fill, especially since what the first round pick is the third round, I believe, this year or something like that. They had to wait till the third round.
Yeah,
that's
43rd pick overall.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it's the 43rd because the Jets have what, or Browns have. The Jets have 42 and 43 is what they have this year.
Yeah,
they got those.
Yeah, what happened was in the Elijah Moore trade today, the Browns the Jets, or I'm sorry, the Browns traded number 43 to the Jets, and the Jets gave them like 774 or something like that. So basically, the Browns now have 2 third-round picks, so they don't even pick until the third round.
Yeah, that's something that's when you look for a diamond in the rough. When you got many holes like that, you're looking for that 1 in a million diamond in the rough, and you want to hit twice on your 2 picks. So
that was my theory. Like, you know, I personally I think Elijah Moore has a real chance to do something with Cleveland, and so as a player, I like him. But I didn't really love the trade, only because when the Jets went out and signed Mecole Hardman, everybody and their mother knew that they had to get rid of Elijah Moore. First of all, Elijah Moore was begging for a trade last year.
There was rumors with Dallas. Dallas was even talking about last year with the rumors, when he wanted out.
Right. So, like, I mean, while I like Elijah Moore as a player, and I think he can help Deshaun Watson, like, if I'm a Browns fan, I guess I'm saying I like the move, but like, I'm not really in love with the fact I don't pick until the third round. Like, to me, I would have tried to get him for a third round pick.
Yeah, I think you gave up, a little too much from spoiled milk. Yeah, I think you gave up too much for spoiled milk. Thinking it was perfect milk. I think you gave up too much right there for that right there.
Yeah, that Deshaun Watson trade's going to hurt them for years to come.
They're going to be backlanded for a long time.
Yeah, they're going to have to be like free agent heavy over this because like the way he is getting his money, and plus too, I mean, they still have Amari Cooper out there, so it's not like Elijah Moore's going to be the only guy out there. They still have him. They still have what the hell's the other, Donovan Jones people.
Yeah,
that kid's still out there. So he's actually Denzel Mims is actually going to a really good offense. Austin Hooper's still out there as the tight end. So I mean, you got those guys that are lined up. Plus you have Nick Chubb running the ball if they decide to keep him. So the offensive side I think is going to be okay. It's just that defensive side, which me and Joe's old boy Jim Swartz is now running that defense. So. Just be prepared, Cleveland.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Deshaun Watson on the offensive line. Was a rust last year. How's he going to look for the full season? And that defense. I mean, if the defense can keep you in games, that offense is legit on paper. They can do some damage.
Exactly.
They can do some damage. Yeah.
And I didn't even bring up David Njoku either. I forgot about him.
Yeah. All right, so Mike, give me one play. I mean, what are you going to do through free agency, real quick, and give me a record of your Cleveland Browns that are going to be tanking probably this year?
I would take a look offensive line. They need guard help center. Look and see what the best guard available is out there. Bring them in.
At that point, you're going to be looking at Wawa offensive guards out there.
Nah, I don't think so. I think there's still some decent. I mean, guys, dude, Sam Malu just signed literally a couple days ago
with my team, Pittsburgh. I'm talking about
yeah, with Pittsburgh. So I mean, there's still some guys out there that can get signed, and I think some of the other stuff will fall into play. Like they signed the DT. They got the DT from Dallas, the kid Hill.
Tristan Hill. Yeah, he's a good player. He's a big body.
Yeah, I mean they got him. They got the cornerback. Okay, they got the linebacker. So I mean, it says here they need a left tackle. I was reading on their site. I don't know why somebody would say they need a left tackle. I think they got 2 pretty good bookends over there. The interesting thing to me was they cut Javanian Clowney, and I thought that was a little weird that they cut him.
I heard the price tag was really huge on him. That's why they couldn't keep him.
Yeah, well, they cut him and Greedy Williams. They cut them both.
Yeah, Greedy. Yeah.
That was a locker. The Clowney thing was a locker room thing. Apparently, at the end of last year, he was really mouthing off. Where it was kind of like even if he was playing well, it's like an addition by subtraction. I mean, he was a real cancer in that locker room, from what I read.
Yeah, somebody said something about he might be going back to Seattle. But
Yeah,
I'm glad that they gave us Greedy Williams because I was real high on that kid coming out. So I mean, it was a good pickup for the Birds with him. I was kind of shocked that they let him go, though. I mean, I know he's been a little banged up with them, and especially with them needing help, especially across from Denzel Ward. You know, you think that they would keep Greedy, but they didn't. And but I think they can pick up somebody too. There's still a few more cornerbacks that are still out there that they can get. Like I said, we all know the cornerback market hasn't been good this year. I mean, our boy just got $8 million from the Lions, so
yeah.
So I mean, I think, like I said, just looking at your schedule though, if I had to go with it, I would say 7-10, 6-11 around that area. Okay. And like I said, as far as draft wise, I would draft best player available because they got a lot of holes.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's about 6-11 too. I don't think they go offensive line this year. I think, to me, I'm a different kind of breed person coaching offense. Deshaun Watson is a mobile quarterback. I think he's going to run the ball a little bit, get out of the pocket, so you can go other holes and let Deshaun run because you ain't going to win this year with what you have. Just go best available defensive side of the ball, build that defense, and the next year, hell, maybe you can make a trade for somebody and get back in the first round, maybe another pick in the first round for next year. Go and get your weapons or your OT, whatever you need. But yeah, I think 6-11. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, there's a team out there with the quarterback controversial going out there, no agent, Mr. Lamar Jackson. What is going on with him? What's going on with the Ravens, Chuck?
Mm-hmm. So I think I have the most this team is the biggest enigma in the National Football League right now. You look at the Baltimore Ravens. First off, let's look at last year. Last year they were 10-7. Lamar Jackson gets hurt. A little controversy whether he could have come back or not. Let's keep it real. I think he kind of made a business decision. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, Ravens finished with a with like the third best running defense. They only gave up like 89 yards a game rushing. Their pass defense, they could use some help. They were like I think 23rd versus the pass. But as far as the Ravens though, dude, like you said, it all comes to Lamar Jackson because last year I think in their 7 losses, I think they had nice size leads in at least 5 or 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, this is a team that blew a lot of games. I mean, look at that game early in the season versus Miami. I mean, they had that game won. They blew that game. Right. They were up 14 on Buffalo. They blew that game. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to give you a read on the Ravens because I don't know if I'm going to have my franchise quarterback or not. Now, if you tell me I have a healthy Lamar Jackson, I'm going to tell you with my 23rd pick, I'm going wide receiver. I'm going like a Flowers from BC, or I'm going an Addison from USC, or I'm going a Johnston from TCU, and I'm giving Lamar a weapon, because they really need a wide receiver. They're desperate for wide receivers. In fact, I was reading that they're bringing Nelson Aguilar in for a look as a free agent. The Ravens also could use some secondary help because Marcus Peters is a free agent. So they have Rock Ya-Sin from the Raiders coming in for a visit, so he could be a possibility. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, it's really hard for me to give a read because I have no idea whether I got a quarterback or not. I mean, like I can make an argument right now if Baltimore adds a legit receiver to what they have and Lamar Jackson's healthy, I could give an argument that they can make a Super Bowl run.
Wow.
No, I mean, as crazy as that is, just based off the fact they were 10-7 last year with just a running game and defense and blowing those games. Now, you tell me I'm getting an MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson, healthy back, add a receiver to that with that good defense. The Ravens could be contenders in a snap, or they get rid of Lamar Jackson and you're looking for rebuild.
To me, Joe, the Ravens, and my words that I like to say about them, they are a unsung roster, is what they have. Yeah. Their running game is they're running. But I read an article today. Somebody on Twitter said something about a beat reporter for the Ravens. To your point, they blew a lot of games late in the third and fourth quarter when they were up, and they said, this is the fact that when you have a all-pro quarterback with no weapons, you rely on your running game in the fourth quarter. You take away that, you can be beatable. And that's exactly what the beat reporter said, that they're losing games because there is no threat of a wide receiver, a Johnson from TCU and Addison, people with Flowers. They don't have that. They've never had the weapons. Hollywood Brown, people like that are not the weapons that they need.
Can I bring something up to you?
Mm-hmm.
I read something. The Ravens have the least expensive offense the last 4 years in the National
Wow.
Football League. They spent, and that's one of the reasons why they, a lot of Baltimore fans were kind of sick of Greg Roman, so they got rid of Greg Roman finally. Mm-hmm. They brought in Todd Monken as the new offensive coordinator from the University of Georgia. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what he could do. But looking at the draft for the Ravens, I mean, like I said, you could go a lot of different. You could go corner. You could go wide receiver. A hidden need for the Ravens, as good as their defense is, they did just get rid of Calais Campbell. They could possibly go 3-4. They could possibly go 3-4 end/tackle, and they also lost guard Ben Powers, so then maybe they could go interior offensive line. Like the kid from Florida. I'm drawing a blank.
Serious Torrance.
Exactly, because he's supposed to be going around. He's supposed to be there around the 23rd pick. So maybe you go a kid like him. They did address the center position last year with Tyler Lindenbaum or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Huge. Yeah.
He's a hell of a lineman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's and the Ravens don't have a second round pick because they used that for Roquan Smith. So that thought, I don't know. It's kind of hard to trade down 23, but that's Ravens could possibly, if they have a trade partner, maybe move down a little bit and pick and acquire another draft pick because they do have some needs. Okay. And with not having that second round pick, that could be a possibility too.
Let me throw you a curveball, Joe.
Sure.
Draft is coming up here. Lamar has not even signed yet. He's not signed this little deal that he has here. The draft is a week away, so it's all on Lamar Jackson. So, night before the draft, Lamar has not signed yet. What do you do?
There's nothing. Well, I'm not drafting a quarterback.
Okay.
I'm not. And plus they have the 23rd pick, so they're not. I'm not. Right. So I'm not going quarterback. Honestly, they're in a really. Don't you think they're in a really bad spot?
They are.
Yeah. They are. Because it's like. I see what I think it is. I think the Ravens. I think that the Ravens were kind of praying that somebody would make him an offer, which would set his market, and it hasn't happened. And I know there's a lot of controversy out there. People are saying possible collusion. I don't believe it's collusion. I just think that as good as Lamar Jackson is, let's keep it real. He's been injured the last 2 years. I don't think a team out there wants to give a quarterback like him a fully guaranteed contract.
And the thing is, like you said last year, when he was injured, let's talk about that injury. To me, he gave up on the team. It was a business decision. I'm not going to get hurt. To me, there was people in the locker room saying, bro, at least give us 80% if you can give it to us. To me, he gave up on the team. But when you give a player, your franchise player, the exclusive franchise tag, that, to me, he loses a lot of faith in you because that says, hey, Sean, Joe, Mike, we want you, but you can go test the waters first to see what you're going to get. That tells me a little bit exactly about Lamar, what the Ravens feel about him.
Can I tell you? This is pure speculation by me, and I don't see this happening. But can I give you the perfect landing spot for Lamar Jackson? Because
please,
apparently, I know Jared Goff had a good year with Detroit last year, but I'm pretty sure I read that there's a way they could get out of his contract in sometime in June or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a thought. What if Detroit decided to get out of Jared Goff's contract and they offered the number 8, what do they have? The number 8 pick this year. Yeah. They also have 16, I believe, right? So maybe not. Now next year's draft's supposed to be really strong. So maybe not necessarily both picks this year. But what if they called Baltimore? They made Lamar an offer, right? And they offered 8, and then their pick next year, and then they got rid of Goff, and then Baltimore takes those 2 first-round picks and signs Goff.
The first word I'm going to use is weapons. Detroit has weapons. Weapons. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But could you imagine? I'm just wondering if that would be a marriage that would work for both teams because Baltimore gets out of the Lamar Jackson, dilemma. They get Goff for this year. They're still competitive. They have 2 first-round picks. Then next year they have 2 first-round picks, and maybe they could have, if they don't have a great year, they have the ammunition to move up to get a quarterback.
I think to me it comes down to Goff's contract, what he's owed. I don't even know what his contract is, because if you're going to get Lamar, you're looking at say 40 million a year, and he wants a long-term 3 or 4 year deal. That's 160. But I don't know who's going to take that Goff contract. I don't know what it is. But if you can get out of that,
if I could read, I'm going to see if I could read that, because I could have swore I read somewhere where, and I apologize, I should have had it up, but I'm just spitballing here. But
that's a good scenario. While you're looking that up, what do you guys think about that? I mean, you look at the weapons that Detroit has. A great running game, of course. Amon St. Brown and Jameis Williams from Alabama last year came off the injury. Then you got Eddie Hockenson too. You have the weapons. You think about what he can do with that kind of team. That's a good scenario, but it's all going to work down to that financial burden if it can please both teams.
You also have Swift, and now you got Montgomery. You got Montgomery coming over from the Bears too, so they got a solid 1-2 punch going there behind Penei Sewell in that offensive line, which was highly rated last year. So I could see that, Joe. I really could.
I found it. Says here, Goff's contract runs through 2024, but he's already been paid his guarantees. The deal includes a potential out for 2023 that would only cost the Lions $10 million in dead cap money. So I don't know what their cap situation is, but if they had a Howie Roseman type dude, maybe they could, and they sign Lamar long term, maybe they could have a lower cap number this year and possibly go forward with Lamar. And I'll tell you what, putting Lamar Jackson on Detroit with what they have would scare the shit out of me, him being in the NFC.
Yeah, if I'm the GM, I'm sitting there like, I'm going to a financial advisor or someone under the Howie Roseman tree and saying, hey, look, how can I make this happen? Because this is going to benefit us.
Can you imagine that? Dude, I'll tell you right now, dude, the Bears-Lions game would be so entertaining.
Oh, I know.
Think about that. Justin Field and the weapons he got now going along with Detroit with Lamar Jackson.
Games would be much better.
I think that's a parlay. That's a parlay where I'm going to put running backs over maybe 400 yards total combined. The offensive output over 700 combined, both teams. Yeah.
I mean, dude, like those games I think would be kind of cool. But you know what? Yeah. I could see the Lions doing something like that. I mean, they're definitely in with Jared Goff, but if they have a chance to get him, I mean, that's an upgrade.
The thing is, Dan Campbell was highly unpredictable. I mean, a man that's going to say he's going to bite your damn kneecaps off, and that's the way they play. He's unpredictable, man. He'll do anything during a draft. Joe, when we do the live draft, if that happens, I'm probably going to fall off my damn seat.
Me too. And it's funny because everybody's saying the Lions are on the up and come, and they are. And in all fairness, let's be honest. Jared Goff was one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL towards the end of the year last year. I mean, he played really well. Mm-hmm. By the same token, though, does anybody really think Jared Goff's going to win a Super Bowl?
No.
I don't. So if I'm the Lions, and I go to myself, I'm like, you know what, man? If I got Lamar Jackson and I gave him Amon St. Brown and I gave him the kid Jamison Williams from last year from Bama,
Swift, Hockenson,
I gave him that running game and shit. Plus, Detroit's got a really good O-line. I mean, holy shit, man, that team's cooking with some serious gas.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. If that trade happens, I probably would move Detroit really up there. I mean, they're going to be ahead of Green Bay, of course. They're going to be ahead of the Bears. I would put them up there in that division, top of the lead right there, if that happened. So that's something we're going to take a look at on draft night. Oh, yeah.
I think, well, honestly, if I'm picking right now, I'm picking Detroit to win the division regardless. I think Detroit wins the division now anyway. Mm-hmm. But still, I mean, with getting the Lamar,
I agree. So based on right now, let's say we keep Lamar Jackson here. Give me your first round pick, of course, and what's your record for the year, Joe?
All right. Well, if I'm keeping Lamar, then I'm going to go the kid Johnston from TCU. I think he's a great match for
Quentin Johnson. Yeah, 6'4".
I'm going him.
Yeah.
I'm going him because I want to get Lamar a weapon. And like I said, man, you give me a healthy Lamar with this defense, and remember, J.K. Dobbins really came on at the end of the year last year.
Yeah.
And then Roquan Smith came in and really changed that defense. I mean,
tackling machine.
Tell you, a healthy Lamar, they're right there competing with Cincinnati for the division. I'm going to say Baltimore. I'm going to say Baltimore falls is 10-7 again. I think they're just a little bit worse than Cincinnati, but they're close.
Okay. I'm gonna say 11-6 or so. I think they're gonna take one more upgrade, one more game this year. I like the defense. My favorite player is Hamilton. Being Notre Dame, I love what he does, and him teamed up on that defense. I think they'll be good, but it all comes down to Lamar getting him that weapon like Johnson or an Addison or something like that. This way, there's no more excuses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, what do you guys think of records, real quick, Mike? What do you think the records for the Ravens will be? I said 11-6.
I say I don't think they're going to be that good.
Ooh.
I don't. I think they take a step back. I don't think he's there. I think Huntley's.
Are you going to flip them like the Falcons? You said the Falcons are going to win the division. Like we all disagreed. You said the Falcons, and now you're going to say the Ravens are going to be the worst, or behind?
No, they're going to be the worst. I don't think they're going to be the worst. I think the Browns are going to be the worst.
Okay.
But right above them is going to be the Ravens, because I don't think Lamar Jackson will be there. I think they move on from him, and Tyler Huntley's going to be the starting quarterback. So big difference between Huntley and Lamar. And I got them going. I think they'll be. I got them going 8-9.
Wow.
Around there.
Wow. Okay. Sean, what do you got for them?
Right there with Joey, 10-6, and I think they draft
Quentin Johnson,
like a defensive end.
Defensive. Okay.
Like Lucas Van Ness, Miles Murphy.
Okay. Wow. Well, let's get into the last team real quick. We just had a Garrett on here. I wish he would hop on here and talk about it, but I got the Steelers, and first I just want to say they solidified their offensive line. You guys know Salmalo just came over.
Yeah.
Great pickup as well. I think that's going to boost the offensive line, but they do have a lot of questions, of course. I mean, you look at Kenny Pickett. Can he be the quarterback, the franchise QB? We've seen glimpses of him. I love the tight end, Fairmouth. I love him. Pickens, Deontay Johnson, wide receivers, I love them. But my question is to you guys real quick before I go any further. Najee Harris, coming off an injury last year, wasn't himself. Didn't look like it. Seen glimpses, but to me, it's not Najee Harris. And I think with that foot injury that he had, he's losing a step to me. What do you guys think first about that?
I don't. I just think he was hurt. He was banged up. Now he gets the rest out. That dude's a beast. Mm-hmm. He's a dude that when he gets hit, he drags people with him, man.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I think he got acclimated with the game. Like Mike said, he had his bumps and bruises. One year is done with him in the pros. I think second year he's gonna have a pretty good season, man. He's just an all-around talent, man, coming from Bama. So yeah.
What do you think, Joe, about Najee?
Right.
I think he was just hurt, but I think it's another example of why teams are always afraid of taking running backs in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're guys get dinged up, and one little ding up and you lose a little bit of a step and it changes everything.
The reason why I'm asking that is being up here, I get the newspaper up here. It's mostly like the Pittsburgh Gazette, and I don't get it. I read it online. And a couple of days ago, somebody mentioned, a reporter said, well, I think it's time that we look other ways than Najee Harris. Teams will want Najee cheap-wise because he has 2 years left on his contract. Get him cheap, and let's go after a Robinson or a Gibbs in the first round. I think it's kind of stupid, but
I think that's silly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Stick with what you got. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he's a hell of a running back, man. You're just getting the same thing, but a different talent.
Exactly. You're just getting a 2-year, window of a contract, basically. I think it's injury wise, but just like coming from Bama, Najee is just a beast of its own. So I think you go there, but defensively, what do you guys think about defense? Because I'm looking at the defense here. To me, the question is T.J. Watt. I mean, arguably probably one of the best defensive ends in the game, / like a linebacker, pretty much a hybrid. To me, if he stays healthy, he is the key to this, this defense that they run. It shows when he's off the field, you can be picked on with the running game, the passing game. It just goes to shit when he's not on the field.
He's one of the most valuable players in the league. I mean, the defense. They sucked without him last year, and then towards the end of the year they went on a
tear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now to bring up your point with defense, with this draft coming up, if you give him a counterpart, I think the kid Cansey, which I think Pickett will vouch for, you put him in that middle, with the weather, whatever side, man, it's lights out, man. I mean,
and that's good, like you said, because Watt does move side to side too. He's not one of those players that just stay on the right and the left. He moves. He looks for that mismatch, and I think that's a great opportunity.
Exactly. Yep. Mismatch nightmare, and it would take off a lot of pressure and ease off of T.J. Watt coming off like you guys said, a banged up year with injuries, man. Torn pec, I believe. Yeah, just crazy. Yep. But the future looks bright, man.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. I mean, they really didn't do a lot of offseason moves. Of course, they picked Isaac Salmalo from the Eagles. That's a huge pickup. Of course, we all know that. But the other one, let me ask you. Just like the Cowboys picked up Gilmore. We won't talk about that. He's not past his prime. He's a good situational player. But the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in one of the great corners of all time. If you look at it, Patrick Peterson.
Yeah,
I like that move.
Yeah, I think it's a real good move. It adds veteran leadership. And look at what he did towards the end of the season for Minnesota, man. 2 key clutch interceptions. So it's a pretty good upgrade. I mean, not upgrade. I mean, good pickup for the secondary wise.
Right.
So
I don't like it. I don't. Not that I don't like Patrick Peterson. Don't get me wrong. But they let go of that kid Sutton, and he signed with Detroit. Sutton was up there. Sutton was one of the highest rated corners in free agency. I mean, he was up there with Bradbury, and that kid was only like 28. I mean, to me, I don't understand. I really don't get it. I mean, you got a quarterback on a rookie pay scale.
Yes.
And you're not quite ready to win. Why wouldn't you keep the younger guy? I mean, what the hell was the point of bringing to me, Patrick Peterson would be going to a team that's ready to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion.
That's exactly what they said in the newspaper up here. That Sutton, when he left, they're thinking like, well, we need to replace him with a name player, not a fundamental situational plug and play. Let's go out and get a name that we all know, Patrick Peterson. And my thing is. You can team him up with Fitzpatrick. I love him as safety. I think he's a ball hawk. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is not what it used to be. I don't really know where to go, honestly. Do you think that they go offense and give Pickens another weapon? What do you think they do? Do they keep Pickett upright or do they go defense situation? I like going D end or probably D tackle if one's available.
Well, don't forget they also have the 32nd pick that they got Bears. So, they probably go best guy available. What are they at 17? I think
17 and 32. Yeah, where there's something like that.
That could be a Joey Porter. That could be a possibly like Sean said, the kid from Pittsburgh, the D tackle / D end, or it could be a Miles Murphy. And they also have a needed inside linebacker. But I don't know if that's a spot for inside linebacker. Might be more second round.
Yeah.
Well, listen. One thing with this about Pittsburgh, never count out them drafting a tight end. Like this could be another spot where your boy could go, where Mayer could go, and he could join Freiermuth, and now Kenny's got 2 tight ends to throw to.
That's a good scenario because. I was talking to this guy earlier. He's a big Pittsburgh fan. He was like, back in the day, you go Pittsburgh running the ball, with Franco Harris and even Jerome Bettis back in the day. That was physical football. And they did run a lot of double tight ends out there. So that might be an option just to bring it back because if you don't have the weapons for Pickett right now, you have what's his name? Wide receiver. Crap, I just lost the blank out there.
I got one.
It's just like Keith Miller days.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, I got one for you. Perfect scenario. So Pittsburgh has the 32nd pick. If going off your theory with the 2 tight ends, the kid from Georgia is supposed to go around around 28.
Darnell Washington. Wow.
And they say he's an unbelievable blocker. He's almost like having a tackle out there. So if you were to get him, then all of a sudden he can be used in the passing game. And if you're trying to establish a power running game with Najee Harris, you got that kid blocking.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they have a lot of holes this year, of course, but I honestly think they're going to go defense because they're going to go back to the days of Pittsburgh defense. I think they're going to go back old school, fundamental smash mouth defense. That front 4, I think they do it because you got to give T.J. Watt some help out there because he's getting double, triple teamed out there.
Well, he's got help on the line. He's got Cam. He's got Cam
Hayward. Right. But I think you go one more person. because like when you got off, I said that TJ Watt flips sides so much, which helps him either way. But if you can put 3 out of the 4 out there, I think it's going to open up so many gaps, even stunts with the linebackers. I don't care who you have a linebacker. If you can get positioning up front, stunts and twists are going to happen. That's Pittsburgh defense to me.
Oh, just remember too, Tomlin's a defensive coach, so
exactly.
So they may go defense, but I'll tell you what, I would like to see him if they're going to go defensive line. I'd love for him to get that defensive end out of Clemson.
Bryson Brees or Miles Murphy?
Miles Murphy.
Murphy's nasty.
Miles Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, the edge. Yeah.
The edge rusher.
Brees is inside.
Right. If you get him, he's the edge rusher. So you put him opposite side of TJ Watt and let him go eat.
Yeah.
Let him go eat, and then you got Cam Hayward in the middle. So I mean,
all right. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, now I was finished. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna give you what? So go ahead. What you saying?
For the defense, I think I'm right there with you. Either Cansey, the defensive tackle, or Devin Weatherspoon, since Joey brought up Sutton being lost due to free agency. He fits the Steelers perfectly if he's there.
So and that's what they said in the newspaper up here is they said Penn State, Pittsburgh, double threat draft. Porter and the boy from Pittsburgh as well. Bring in hometown. Why not? You bring in Pickett last year, fan favorite. Let's bring in some more PA players. Might as well. But I'm going to go Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I think they're going to listen, man. Tom has never had a losing record in his career, man. So I'm going to hover right around 9-8 this year. I think he's going to keep going with the record never being below 500. I'm going to go 9-8 because there's too many weapons. I mean, too many holes that they need to fill. And I think they finished 3rd in division.
Okay.
I got behind Cincinnati. I got behind the Ravens, and I got Steelers 3 and Browns bring up the rear.
Okay. For me, I got Steelers coming in second, and I think I got them around 9-8. Also, I think 10 wins this division. They're going to beat up on each other.
Yeah.
They're going to beat up on each other, and I feel like more Cincinnati has come back to the pack as much as the pack is caught up. Now, Pittsburgh is caught up, I believe, a little bit to them. But I think the Ravens are taking a step back. Like, there's too much uncertainty there with the whole Lamar Jackson situation. Again, if Lamar is their quarterback, then, obviously they go towards the top and will be battling Cincy. But right now, there's just too much, you don't know. He's not trying to sign that franchise tag. So he's going to try and get, but
I believe he signed for one more year. I believe it's one more year, if I'm not mistaken, because they were talking about he signed a 2-year deal to come here and back up. Yeah, Pickett.
Yeah. So I look at it like this, but I think Pittsburgh's vastly improved, and like I said, if they get that kid Murphy from Clemson and he goes opposite side of TJ Watt, look out, man! Okay. Just look out. They're going to be good, and I like I said, I think they may even have the same record as the Bengals. I think the Bengals may have a better division record. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but it's going to be them too. Steelers are going to shock some people this year. Their defense was good last year. They're going to be real good this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, what do you think, real quick, about the Steelers? What do you think their record is?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm kind of in line. I'm actually kind of in line with Mike because I'm looking at their opponents here. Okay.
I didn't even look at their schedule. Yeah, I didn't even look at their schedule, honestly.
I really like their schedule. I'll tell you why. All right. In the division, I think they split with Baltimore. Whether Lamar, if Lamar is not there, I think they sweep them. But I think they split with Baltimore because Pittsburgh always knows how to defend Lamar well. Split with Baltimore. They may even split with Cincinnati. All right. So that's 2 That's 2 right there. Cleveland. Who knows? I could see them winning both against Cleveland. All right, but here's where I'm thinking they're going to make some hay. Jacksonville's a nice team, but they're hosting Jacksonville. So that kind of depends on what time of the year it is, but I think they beat Jacksonville in Pittsburgh. Then they host Tennessee. Tennessee's kind of rebuilding. Host Arizona, who knows if Kyler Murray's even playing. They host the 49ers. Yeah, the 49ers are probably better than them, but it's in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's tough to beat in Pittsburgh. They play at Houston. Houston going to have a rookie quarterback. They're rebuilding. At Indianapolis, another team that's rebuilding. At the Rams, major losses with salary cap guys. At Seattle, tough game. I think that could be an L.
Right.
At the Raiders, they could win that game in Las Vegas. Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo, he doesn't scare me.
Mhm.
Then Pittsburgh hosts New England, and they host Green Bay. Well, Green Bay's moving on without Aaron Rodgers. I think
Yeah, you're right.
I think the Steelers are going 10-7 at worst.
Yeah, based on the schedule, I think I like their scenarios of home and away games and who they play. Just like you said, there's teams out there, rookie quarterbacks. The only tough game that I see on the road is probably going to be Seattle with the 12th man out there. New England's not the same. Green Bay is not the same. Texans are, they're tanking with the Bryce Young or Stroud. We don't know.
Dude, and the game in Vegas, it's going to be all Steelers fans. That's going to be like a home game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Sean, what do you think about Steelers real quick before we head out of here?
10-7, just like Joey said.
Wow, I'm gonna eat my damn words, huh? At the end of the season, huh?
Yeah.
I got him going 9-8. I mean, it's not bad, one game off from you guys, but I got him finishing third. I think that's where they're going to be. But man, listen, tonight, guys, before we get out of here, what are we doing next week, man? We got to take it over to the NFC again. Where are we going to go?
NFC North.
Yeah, let's go to the black and blue division. Yeah, the NFC North.
NFC North next week. Okay. Who wants to pull out their team right now? Who wants to go?
I wouldn't mind doing the Bears. I got a Justin Fields jersey I could rock.
See, Joe's into bestiality. I'll take the Lions.
Sean, I'll let you go. Go ahead, man.
Vikings.
Shit, and who does that leave me with?
The Packers, the Fudge Heads.
Damn, I don't think I have a Packers jersey though, honestly.
I ain't got a Lions jersey. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I do. I got an old Mike Williams jersey floating around here somewhere.
Damn, I don't have a Packers jersey.
I think I'm the only dude that's crazy enough to have a jersey from each of these divisions, practically.
Joe, is there any team that you don't have a jersey on from?
Yeah, Dallas.
And
the Giants.
No. You have a Dallas jersey, Joe.
That's right, I did because I lost the bet to Paul. I have a Tony Romo jersey to the one show.
Wow.
I did that on purpose because I said, Joe, you know what? Your ass don't have a Cowboys jersey, so I got to make a bet with you. Yep.
I don't have one.
I think the only team I don't have one is actually I don't have a Texans jersey, and I don't have a Packers jersey. I don't. Those are the only two teams I don't have.
I had an old Brian Cushion jersey, but every time I put it on, my head started to bleed.
That's because, oh my god!
Stop headbutting people.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Every time I put it on, dude, my head would just start leaking. And finally, I had to take it off, get rid of it.
Oh my god! Do you guys ever get the feeling like, okay, you're a fan of, like, I'm a Cowboys fan, you guys are Eagles fans. Do you guys ever get a feeling like when you put a different team jersey on, you feel some kind of like itchy?
Yes.
I feel the same way. Even though it's a legend, Franco Harris, I feel kind of itchy though. I really do.
Because it's not your team, and you're like, cool, man.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. All right, so we're going to do NFC North next week. We already picked our teams out there. We don't have to put a Twitter poll out there. But real quick, before we get out of here, let's just play the video, and we'll be back in 1 minute to wrap this whole damn shebang up. All right, everybody. That is going to be it for us. But real quick, hey, Mike, I know something's going to happen tomorrow night about 8 p.m. What's going on tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm going to be right here on this fine network of ours talking Eagles, what they haven't done, and getting some of your reactions. Of course, we're going to touch on the 76ers. They're playing right now, and they're back-to-back against the Bulls. Can they get even? We're going to talk about that. We're going to look forward to the Phillies. Got a little bit of concern with the Phillies. All of a sudden, pitchers got some dead arms coming up here. Could it be from that run in October last year? Speaking about World Baseball Classic, we're going to touch on the best player in the Baseball Classic yesterday, which is Trey Turner. We're going to talk about him. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you expect me to say Ohtani?
Yeah, I actually did.
No, he wasn't the best player. He was on the winning team. I mean, that was a great game last
night.
night.
Hands down, you got to give. I'll tell you what. Phillies versus Japan in the WBC yesterday. That's all it was. That's all it was. I give you credit.
Listen, how about this? Stop and think about it. The last 3 games that the United States have played, most of their runs have been manufactured by members of the Phillies. Last night they lose 3-2. Schwarber and Trenton Turner hit home runs. Yeah. I mean, man,
Turner had a great WBC series.
He did,
man. He just was lights out to pull that game out with the grand slam. Saturday night, and then to do it Sunday night again. Wow.
But listen, that's what we're going to touch on. May have a guest, may not. Don't know yet. Trying to work on that. But if we do, you'll see it up there prior to. And, of course, my constituents, anytime you guys want to pop on, you can always do that. Just shoot me a link, and you can join me. So
you're welcome, Cowboy fans, too?
Oh, all fans.
Okay.
All fans. If you got the knowledge you want to talk, I'm like Joe, dude. I invite everybody.
That's like me, man. If you can spit sports, you're welcome to join me anytime.
Yep,
absolutely.
Joe, we got to get you something, man, for that Monday night show because I had to follow the bounce a ball. With that.
I know. Tell me about it.
We'll talk off camera though, because there was a great quote.
Oh boy.
Did you see what I did? I pulled a Joe. I'm not political, but I have to say it. I pulled a Joe Biden with the fucking.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, you know what happened? Chris Rapizzi. So anyway, right? Our buddy Chris Rapizzi. So we had this girl on.
I see. Yeah, I was checking it. Yeah.
And we were talking about Kevin Durant and his tweets, and it was Paul. Sometimes the things in small print. You ever notice that? I didn't really read it, and it said he was acting like a female, and I was like, oh, let's go to a comment. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, never mind.
he quick jumped off that, deleted that. He's like,
yeah. So then all of a sudden I go to, and I felt so bad because the girl was really cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to put something up to disrespect her. And in all fairness, I think she read it, but I mean, I don't think it might not even have bothered her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to put it up there.
Yeah, you never know how somebody gets offended with words or whatever.
Well, I literally. Yeah, so I literally go. I go. Well, Sean, you have a question, right? You know what I mean?
Yo, he threw it right to killer too. Like, hey, yo, you got a question, right?
And it was great.
That's when Sean goes, no, but yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, totally.
I was in tears, bro. I was in tears.
It was great because I and it was funny too because I was surprised because Chris Rapizzi's cool as hell and he always comments and he's great, but I was surprised because I'm like, damn, I'm surprised we're putting that we got a girl on, you know what I mean? And I didn't really notice it,
Right.
It was just kind of it was funny, man. It was funny.
Right. Well, Sean, I mean, listen, man, what do you got going on real quick? We're getting plugs. So where can they find you at?
They can find me on Twitter and Facebook. And Instagram, as you see below me. And then Thursday nights, I do a show on Broad Street South with Angel Martinez and Mike Fuji.
All right. And is there anything on Monday night that you're on too? I heard Monday night.
Yeah, my man.
I mean, damn, come on, brother.
Yeah.
It's all
6 to 7, man. Check us out. Yeah.
There we go. And Joe, I mean, I think you got something coming up next week as well. Am I right or wrong about what's going on here on Out of the Box too?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I'm really pumped about this. Well, first off, as Sean already said, we're on the Sully Squad Monday nights at 6, and we be spitting fire. You can watch me. You can watch me not be able to read a teleprompter, right? Yeah, who knows what comments I'm going to put up? You know what I mean?
Hey Joe, producing ain't easy, brother. We know that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't exactly Dr. Dre like. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I'm here.
But so it's Sully Squad and all these, but I'm really excited. On Tuesday night, we're going to do a baseball show on this network Tuesday nights at 8. Myself and you are Paul, and maybe another. And if anybody else is in the baseball, we're open to welcoming you on the show. But it's going to be on baseball, on all the teams. But really, I kind of want to gear it at least a little bit towards the top prospects in baseball. The show's going to be called Extra Innings, and I kind of want to gear it towards not only the Phillies' top prospects, but like top prospects in all of baseball. It's kind of like we're going to go over what's going on, but also the pipeline to the future.
Like it.
Yeah, definitely can't wait for that show. We've been, talked about it, and just can't wait for that show. That's going to be Tuesday night at 8 p.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right there, Joe.
Tuesday night at 8. Yes, that's right.
All right, there we go. It just came up out of the box. Extra Innings Tuesday 8 p.m. So check that out. Of course, you're a baseball fan. Never know who's going to hop on the show with them. They'll keep you in touch with all the baseball knowledge.
Yeah, and with the new pitch clock, you can't spend a lot of time out of the box. Otherwise, your ass is getting a strike and out.
I like that. That's
you
not
can spend time in the box watching us, though, right?
And that's not Joe Biden speaking, because Joe Biden would have took 15, 35 seconds to even thought of that process right there.
Yeah, and I'll preface that. Hey, I'm not. That's nothing to do with politics. It's just we all know that the guy's fucked up some prompters. So let's just keep it real.
Yeah, definitely, right? Yeah, he might forget where he's at. He might be on stage and forget where he's at again. Who knows? Oh man, it's comical. So guys, listen, we're going to do the NFC North next week, of course. So it's been a great show. First, I want to thank Garrett Webster for chiming in. His dad is a Hall of Famer. Mike Webster, Iron Mike out there. We've all lived up to watching him some way, either on Black and White, being a Cowboys fan. BCR is kind of used to that. So, I'm used to seeing Mike Webster out there being a Hall of Fame player, all-decade player, top 100 player ever in the NFL. So, Garrett, I would appreciate you. You're more than welcome to hop on anytime. Great knowledge of, even baseball and even wrestling, Mike. So, we got a wrestling buddy. So, whenever we're ready to do the wrestling show, we got a wrestling guy as well. So, for myself, Paul Spencer, Sean Killer Kilrain, Mike Loro, let me get this right. Damn it. Oh, shit. Joe Sullivan. We'll see you. I pulled the button. All right. We will see you next week. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. on time. See you guys.
Later.